Howdy y'all, Christi here with Little Salty Homesteader. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am back today with your April monthly garden checklist for here in the North Texas area. Actually, this list works pretty well for most of the state. So if you are here in Texas and you are a gardener, stay tuned because maybe you'll find this task list a little bit helpful for you. The sources that I used to compile this list include this book right here, Neil Sperry's Lone Star Gardening, and then I also used the Dallas Garden School website. She kind of has a lot of similar items as this book, but it's a more simplified list. And then, of course, my own seedtime.us planting calendar that is based directly upon my zip code here in Collin County. So I like to start out these lists with a pretty generic kind of shopping list. That way you know kind of what you might need to purchase during the month. This month it's pretty short. Really all you're going to need to acquire is fertilizer, both the liquid and the granulated forms. For liquid, I like to use Neptune's Harvest. I am an organic gardener. I try to use organic methods, no harsh chemical fertilizer, synthetic chemical fertilizers, and no, really bad kind of insecticides. So I like to use Neptune's Harvest liquid fertilizer, and then for the granular slow release, I will kind of alternate between Fox Farms vegetable fertilizer or Espoma, just kind of depending on what I can get and which one is more affordable whenever I am buying my fertilizers. They both work equally well. However, the Fox Farms one smells a lot better. Like the Espoma one has a really strong scent, and the Neptune's Harvest liquid fertilizer is made from like dead decaying fish, so it also has a really strong smell. So if you're kind of sensitive to really strong odors, just keep that in mind whenever you are buying your fertilizers. But other than that, all of those that I mentioned work really great. I've had really good success with all of them. So if you're in the market for fertilizer and you don't know what to buy, maybe check those out. For your planting list, if your garden is not fully planted out like mine, by seed, you can go ahead and plant out your corn, cucumbers, squash, watermelon, zucchini, and beans. This includes the bush beans and the kind of vining, trailing, pole climbing beans, whichever variety you like to grow. You can also go ahead and transplant your peppers, any cucumbers that you started indoors, squash or zucchini you started indoors, tomatoes, and eggplant. All of that is already in my garden. So if you haven't done this yet, try to get it taken care of early in the month, unless you're in the Panhandle area, and then you're going to want to take care of it by the middle of the month. Now, for the tomatoes, because Texas does get super hot super fast, the big beefsteak and oxheart varieties don't typically do as well here. So if you want a whole lot of tomatoes, focus on small to medium sized tomato varieties, meaning the fruits, not the plants, although you can obviously grow dwarf varieties as well. And that is because we get so hot so quickly. Those giant tomatoes can't really set fruit and grow and develop before it reaches temperatures that tomatoes typically stop producing. So yes, the smaller to medium sized varieties do a lot better here in the heat of Texas. If you're wanting to plant out flower beds or attract in pollinators to help pollinate your cucumbers and watermelons, now in the month of April is a good time to plant out your lantanas, pentas, begonias, vinca, and coleus. Coleus usually doesn't flower until later in the month, but it is a nice kind of textural component to add to your flower beds, and it has like really nice vibrant colors and all kinds of different leaf variation and variegation available too. So it's a super cool plant to incorporate into your growing spaces. If you like to plant herbs within your garden, you can go ahead and plant out your basil, sage, parsley, rosemary, mint, and thyme. So basically anything you need to make a really good soup. But outside of those annual type plants, you can go ahead and continue to plant out perennial flowers, trees, and shrubs before it gets too hot. You certainly don't want to be planting those things in the middle of June and July. For maintenance tasks, since this is the garden planting season, this is also the garden maintenance season. So you're gonna want to prune your trees, like that guy back there, to remove any lower branches that are causing too much shade, maybe preventing some grass from growing, or maybe they're kind of eyeball height and you keep poking yourself in the face. Go ahead and prune those branches off before it gets too hot. You can also go ahead and prune your fall blooming perennials, like some of your salvia varieties. That way all of their new growth will come on before the fall and you'll have a nice flush of flowers. You will also want to mulch all of your garden beds, which is why you needed to go ahead and buy the mulch. The types of mulch that I use in my garden, for the raised beds, I like to use straw mulch. It is a nice insulator, helps retain the moisture, but it's nice and light and fluffy, so if I do need to go in and sow some seeds, it's really easy to kind of move out of the way. For my flower beds and my in-ground spaces, I like to use wood mulch, and that's to help to keep the soil from eroding out of those in-ground spaces. Also helps with water retention, and it helps to build soil health, because as those wood chips break down, they give nutrients into that soil. This is also the month that you're going to begin fertilizing your lawn. So if you have grass like I do, and you're not growing an entire yard of food like I wish that I could, you will go ahead and start fertilizing your lawn. You will also start a fertilizer regimen for the rest of your garden, including your flower gardens. I like to fertilize bi-weekly, and I will alternate between liquid and the granulated fertilizer. The liquid fertilizer is going to give like an instant shot of nutrients to the plants, because you're going to water it on all the leaves and stuff, and the leaves absorb the nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium, and they get nice and leafy, but it's like a short burst. The granular fertilizer is going to be slow release. So as it dissolves down into the soil, it's going to give a much slower release of those 3 nutrient components plus some micronutrients. So it's feeding your plants more long term. Especially in the month of April, it is a good idea to start that fertilizer regimen, because typically April is a rainy month here in Texas, and the more it rains, the more nutrients get depleted out of the soil. So it's a good idea to go ahead and keep replenishing those nutrients as the rain kind of flushes them out. And then the last maintenance task for the month of April is you are actually going to begin trellising your tomato plants if they're established within your growing spaces. Some people will use tomato cages, which works perfectly fine if you are growing smaller varieties of plants. Most of my tomatoes are indeterminate, so they grow and they grow and they grow and they grow and they grow. So I like to use a Florida weave trellising method. One of the downfalls of living by the fire department. So I like to use the Florida weave trellising method, because I can just run some garden twine around my plants, tie it off to T-posts, and it is quick, and it allows me to make sure the plants are supported while they continue to grow taller and taller. And then if I do need to come in and prune off excess or sick or dead branches, it's a lot easier to do that with just the twine running through there than it is to try to wrestle with the cages and meander in and out of all of the different cages. Now, if you do have the cages, they do work great for providing support for your peppers, especially if you have like bell peppers or some of the bigger pepper sizes. You can go ahead and use those tomato cages on your peppers to help kind of support all that weight as those peppers start growing. But that is basically the April garden task list for North Texas. If you found this video helpful and you want to see more checklists from month to month, please like, subscribe, comment, do all those different YouTube-y things. But until next time, go find a way to get those garden manicures. Bye!